Chapter 4. Until Proven Guilty. Not. Dawn burst into school the next day feeling excited. She was going to score an invite to Leah's birthday party and, better yet, solidify her new friendships. That was her ticket to surviving the rest of the school year in Castletown. The day was already off to a great start. For the first time in a week, Dawn had slept well. She had been exhausted after going to school and working the whole afternoon at the antique shop. But she'd whistled the whole time. Even her aunts had noticed her change in attitude, smiling to themselves because their niece was adjusting well. Dawn hadn't even had a single nightmare. She had fallen into a deep sleep and had woken up eager for school today, or two. That morning, she'd bounced out of bed bright and early, found a weak signal in the corner, and texted Ronnie and Daniela, telling them about Leah and the birthday party. Dawn: "Good news! I made my first friend here, and she's having a birthday party." Daniela: "Already? Wow. That was fast. Like really fast." Ronnie: "I doubt that stupid party will be as fun as our parties." Dawn: "Oh, not even close, but a party is a party. I'll take it. I need to make new friends if I'm going to survive this parental-imposed exile." There was a long pause before they responded, and this time it wasn't due to a spotty signal. Dawn wondered if they were texting each other behind her back, away from the group chat they always use. After another excruciating long minute, way longer than it usually took them to respond, Dawn tried texting them again. She worried she was reading far too much into it and overanalyzing the situation. But they were her best friends. She knew them all too well. Her fingers flew over the keyboard before she could hold back and act more chill, something she wasn't great at anyway. Dawn: "Aren't you happy for me? I can make friends here, right? Do you want me to be alone with my weird aunts for 6 whole months?" Another excruciating long pause followed. Dawn worried that she'd overstepped and was acting needy and dramatic, something her mother often accused her of teenage ways. Daniela: "Okay, but don't forget about us." Ronnie: "Yeah, we're still your best friends, right?" Dawn: "Always." But there was more to it than that. Dawn had been looking forward to telling them about her first day at school and how she'd made new friends already. And, especially, she couldn't wait to share the news about Leah's party. Leah was clearly the most popular girl at school. Plus, based on how she and her friends Stephanie and Kaylee dressed for school, the party would probably be super fancy, Dawn figured. She couldn't wait to get her official invitation at school that day and find out. Her aunts would surely give her the afternoon off from work to get ready, seeing as they wanted her to make friends there. Dawn had never been to a fancy party before, just more hangs or casual birthdays back in the city. Her friends weren't elegant like Leah and the kids in Castletown. While Ronnie and Daniela had sounded excited for Dawn, at least on the surface, she could tell that something was a little bit off about their reactions. Those weird pauses were unsettling. They're jealous, she realized in surprise, and afraid of losing her as a friend. But friendships could be hard and unpredictable sometimes. Besides, what choice did Dawn have? Did her old friends want her to spend the next 6 months alone, sulking in her bedroom? She needed to make new friends if she was going to survive, period. With that thought, she scanned the hall. She spotted Leah along with her royal court of Kaylee and Stephanie by their classroom. They were dressed in paisley dresses again, just like the day before. Leah waved Dawn over right away. Dawn had come prepared. She'd fished out her one nice dress from the back of the wardrobe, the one her mom had insisted she bring in case her aunts decided to take her to church or some other gathering. Of course she'd argued with her mom about bringing it, unable to imagine why she'd need that out in the country. But now she was grateful. The dress was black and purple, not paisley like what Leah and the girls in her entourage wore, but it was velvet and long, sweeping around her ankles with lace trim. She'd pair it with black dress shoes. They were a bit clunkier and made for the city and walking, unlike the girls' Mary Jane's. But she was dressed up for school for once, and she knew she'd fit in better. She even carried herself differently, walking with her shoulders back and head high. Dawn had also applied a bit of pink lip gloss, thrilled her aunts didn't react, or worse, forbid it. Instead, when she trotted into the kitchen that morning, they'd oohed and awed at her appearance. "Oh, dearie, look at that dress," Mary trilled. "It's beautiful." "You look tremendous," Flora piped up. "Just wonderful." At school, Dawn made a beeline down the hall, trying to act nonchalant and not too eager, even though her heart was racing. They gave her slow up and settle down looks, though their faces said nothing. Dawn knew the drill. She kept her face neutral. "Happy B-Day," Dawn said in her best casual, cool voice. She added a shrug for good measure to show she wasn't that eager. "Welcome to the official teen club." Leah gave her a respectful nod. 13 queens." "You're already 13? Kaylee asked Dawn, sounding envious. "What's it like?" Stephanie added. "Me and Kaylee are still only 12. "Guess you'll have to wait and find out," Dawn quipped back, loving the attention. She arched her eyebrow at Leah for extra effect, showing they were the cool ones here. Leah shot her a conspiratorial smile, while Stephanie and Kaylee looked jealous. "Come to think of it, I do feel more grown up already," Leah said smugly, focusing on Dawn and leaning closer. "Of course, Ma says I've always been mature for my age." "I can see that," Dawn said, projecting confidence. Then she made herself ask the question burning in her heart. "So did you ask your parents if I could come to your party today?" Leah exchanged looks with her friends, then reached into her bag and produced a pale pink envelope sealed with a rose sticker. "An invitation," Dawn thought, in excitement, but then she made herself calm down. She didn't want to blow the whole thing. "As promised," Leah said with a wink. "Here you go. Open it." Dawn accepted the envelope, then peeled back the delicate sticker. Inside was rich cream-colored cardstock. It had Leah's initials embossed on top, but it didn't say anything about a birthday party. Dawn was confused. "Well, you gonna read it?" Leah said, giving her an expectant look. Dawn unfolded the card, then felt horror rush through her like ice water. She read the card, praying that there was some mistake. Inside, one word was written in bold letters. "Criminal." Dawn's face fell, or more like crumpled in on itself. Tears tugged at her eyes, pricking them with shame. Meanwhile, Leah and her friends broke out in jeers and laughter. "Look at her face," Leah said through giggles. "She actually thought I'd invite her to my birthday party. As if." Dawn wheeled around, noticing that all the kids in the hall had stopped to stare at them. Then she heard it. "Criminal," the kids whispered, pointing to her and laughing. The words shot through the hall. How do you know about that?" Dawn managed to spit out. The shoplifting incident flashed through her head like a bad dream. Leah smirked at her. "Well, we did a little digging. Kaylee and Stephanie are basically like Sherlock and Watson on that TV show." "Yeah, it wasn't hard to find your social media profiles," Kaylee said with a shrug. "We read the comments your friends left, put 2 and 2 together. Shoplifting is like a real crime, you know." The 3 girls stared at Dawn. Suddenly, despite their prim dresses and fancy shoes, they didn't look so nice anymore. The nice girls here were actually the mean girls, Dawn realized. Not only that, but based on the other kids' reactions, They'd clearly spread the gossip around the whole school. Everyone seemed to be in on the joke. They all pointed and laughed at Dawn. It was worse than her terrible nightmare, because this was real life. "Look at the new kid," Dawn heard a girl whisper. "She's a criminal." A boy's voice rang out next. She actually thought she was getting an invitation. The jeering voices and snickers cut through the hall. Dawn spun around feeling dizzy. The chant "criminal" reverberated down the hall, spreading like wildfire. Only one person wasn't laughing and whispering about her. Philippa watched her with a concerned expression. She was clutching one of her thick books. She shook her head sadly. "I'm so sorry," Philippa mouthed. So that was what Philippa had meant the day before about not trusting Leah and her friends. Dawn's stomach dropped at that realization, but she felt like she could turn this whole situation around. She shot Leah a pleading look. "Please, let me come to your birthday party," Dawn whispered in desperation. Her cheeks flamed and felt hot. "Listen, I'm new here. I don't know anyone. Please, I just want a friend." Dawn took a step toward Leah, but Leah looked appalled and cringed back in horror. "No way," Leah said, acting all innocent. "I'm not inviting a common criminal to my birthday party. What would everyone think?" "But I'm not a common criminal," Dawn said, keeping her voice low. "It was all a big misunderstanding. I didn't steal anything." "Oh yeah?" Leah said, folding her arms. "Then why did your parents send you away?" That hit Dawn hard. "Why doesn't anyone ever believe me?" "Please, you can trust me," Dawn begged, feeling tears drip down her face. "I'm not a criminal. I'll prove it. Just let me come to your party." "Not a chance," Leah said, flipping her hair back and pursing her lips in disdain. "You might steal something from my house. You're a bad influence." "Her father is the mayor," Kaylee added. "Don't you get it?" "Yeah, they have to be careful who they associate with," Stephanie chimed in. "What would everyone think? We all know what you did." With that, the girls spun around in a pack and floated together into the classroom, leaving Dawn alone in the hall. She felt more mortified than she ever had before in her entire life. This was even worse than when that security guard had caught her friend shoplifting. She could hear everyone whispering and gossiping about her. "Did you hear what Leah said? She's a criminal. She stole from a store, arrested with her friends. Her parents sent her away. They don't want her anymore." Each whisper hit Dawn like a dagger to the heart. Words had power, like magic spells. They could wound you, maybe even kill you. Can you die of embarrassment, she wondered. Ring! Suddenly the bell signaled that Dawn had to go to class, though she wanted to run as far away as possible and never speak to Leah or anyone in Castletown ever again. This felt like deja vu. No matter how hard she tried to do the right thing, bad things always happened to her. They followed her like a curse. But Dawn didn't have a choice. Feeling hopeless, Dawn took her seat in the back next to Philippa and hunched over, while Mr. Blankenship called the class to order. But every time his back was turned, or he wasn't paying attention, she could hear her classmates whisper at her. Shoplifted. Stole from a store. Bad influence. Criminal. Dawn shrank down further in her desk. Worse yet, she saw all the other kids in class clenching their invitations to Leah's party, pink envelopes sealed with a rose sticker with actual birthday invites inside them. Leah's 13th princess birthday. Every kid in the class except for Dawn had an invite. She clutched the nasty trick invitation in her hand, crumbling it up in her fist. It wasn't fair. Even Philippa clutched a party invite, though she shot Dawn a feeling guilty look. Then something worse happened. Leah shot Dawn a smug look and mouthed, "You should be locked up in jail." That was it. Dawn couldn't take it anymore. Her mortification morphed into raging hot anger. Her blood started to simmer, then boil. Yeah, she had done some bad stuff, but jail? That was a whole other level and a complete exaggeration. The shoplifting incident, her parents blaming her when it wasn't her fault, and sending her away. Now this prank. It all erupted at once. I'm being falsely accused, Dawn thought furiously. Before she knew what she was doing, Dawn stood up from her seat and marched to the front of the room. It felt like someone else was controlling her. The anger just took over her body. A hush fell over the class. The kids stared at her in surprise. Even Mr. Blankenship looked taken aback, but Dawn didn't give him a chance to speak. She pointed her finger at Leah. You're a bully, Dawn yelled. How could you do this? You're a terrible person. Shock gasps shot through the class. Even Mr. Blankenship looked horrified. Oh my gosh, get her away from me, Leah cried, leaping back and acting innocent. Mr. Blankenship, help, she's trying to attack me. You did this, Dawn said, holding up the crumbled card with criminal written on it. What on earth? Leah said innocently. I've never seen that before in my life. Dawn stared at her in disgust. She couldn't believe Leah could lie that easily. Meanwhile, Kaylee and Stephanie came to Leah's defense. Yeah, we heard the new girl got sent away from home because she was trouble, Kaylee said, taking up the innocent act. Mr. Blankenship, Stephanie interjected with a faux, horrified expression. The new girl probably wrote that herself to make Leah look bad. The whole class gasped at the accusations. Okay, everyone, enough, Mr. Blankenship said. He leaned over and studied the card. Dawn, please return to your seat at once. But she did this, Dawn started. They're lying and spreading rumors about me. Enough, Mr. Blankenship cut her off. Leah has had perfect attendance and grades all year. You expect me to believe that she would lie? Leah put on her most innocent face, but her eyes remained cold. Nobody believed Dawn because of her past. They all took Leah's side. But it's not fair, Dawn started. That's it. You're going to the principal's office, Mr. Blankenship said. I can't have you disturbing my class. He pointed to the door. The whole class fell silent, while Leah just shot her a smug look. Criminal, she mouthed one last time. You deserve to get punished. Young lady, have a seat. The secretary chirped from reception, pointing into the dark office beyond. It looked foreboding, giving Dawn a bad feeling. Principal Hubert will be in shortly. Through the windows in the reception office's door, Dawn could see into the hall on the other side. The principal was having a heated conversation with Mr. Blankenship. Her teacher was gesturing around. His cheeks were aflame. He looked angry. That was another bad sign. Dawn pulled her eyes away and sulked as she headed into the office. She plopped onto the sofa, feeling completely alone and misunderstood. Soon that dissolved into anger, which quickly melted into regret. She was supposed to be on her best behavior. That was the only way she was getting back home. Why did this always happen to her? Dawn stared at the framed picture on the wall. It was a sad, drooping map of Castletown. It showed the tiny town center with even spindles and things marked on it. The antique shop had been there for, well, longer than Dawn had been alive. The map was depicted the sprawling forests and the mountains. Dawn stared at the sharp peaks painted onto the parchment. Forbidden Mountains, the map read. That made Dawn shudder. Principal Hubert entered the office and closed the door behind her. She wore a navy pink pantsuit that was baggy and ill-fitting, yet still gave her an authoritative air. Her face was round and soft, but her eyes were dark and sharp. They fixed on Dawn and narrowed. Dawn shrank down again, though now in a different place, awaiting her punishment. Despite the incident back home, This was the first time she'd actually been sent to the principal's office. It was just as horrible as she'd imagined. But it was Principal Hubert's expression, frowning, accusing, and the way she sat behind her desk, staring her down like she was guilty, that made it horrible. Dawn felt her stomach curl and clench. She swallowed against it, but her mouth tasted like sandpaper. A long moment passed. It felt like an eternity. "Young lady, I spoke to Mr. Blankenship," Principal Hubert said. "I don't know what your old school up north was like, but this behavior is unacceptable in Castletown. Is that understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Dawn whispered. Her voice seemed to have deserted her. She didn't bother defending herself. Nobody here believed her. Leah was too good of a liar. Principal Hubert picked up the phone and dialed it. Tap, 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 tap. Dawn heard her aunt's tiny voice echo out of the receiver. "Spindles and things," she chirped cheerfully. "How can I help you today?" "This is Principal Hubert." Dawn sank lower in her chair. "I regret to inform you," started Principal Hubert, speaking into the receiver. "There was an incident at school today involving your niece. You might want to sit down." That was when Dawn's ears started to ring, and she didn't hear anything else after that. She just felt dread. Her aunts were certain to inform her parents that she had gotten in trouble. Again. And they wouldn't believe that it wasn't her fault. While a worried voice leaked out of the phone, from her aunt, of course, and the principal droned on about the incident that day, the desire for revenge ignited in Dawn's heart with black fire. The flames grew stronger and darker because of Leah. Dawn was stuck here, and she might never get to go back home. One thought flashed through her head, feeding the flames. They burned hotter and blacker. Leah deserved to get punished for what she had done.